Life is short. We can get run over any moment. So be happy now, whether it's being a monk or whether it's having $1 billion business, whatever it is that makes them genuinely happy. Don't waste another moment. Don't wait another day, another month, another year. Get on with it today. And that's what's changed my life.
Doing something is going to be scary, but just get on with it, do it.
If you were enjoying the business side of it so much, why did you stop? What changed? And what happened as a result?
Because I realized I can't do this anymore. I want to be in business for different reasons.
Some of my staff was actually making more money than me. What do you think is more damaging? Do you think it's not having a control of your finances or hiring the wrong person?
I notice things go spectacularly wrong when...
Are you looking for actionable insights from the world's most inspiring individuals? The Built by Love podcast is on a mission to transform your life, your business, and your health. Tune in for impactful conversations with people who do business differently. Avoid burnout, acquire freedom, and live life fully on your own terms. With me, Pete Daly-Dickson, alongside Daniel Bussius.
A number of years ago, I was alone in my flat in London, family homes in the country. But during the week, I was in my flat working with clients and so on in London. I was alone one evening and I felt this numbness right-hand side of my body. My right arm started coming up close to my chin and stopping working. And my right leg felt numb. I hadn't got a freaking clue what the hell was going on. I just about managed to call 999 emergency services, and I got taken to the hospital and straight into accident emergency. They didn't know what had gone wrong either, and I'd lost the whole of the right side of my body. And I was in hospital for 10 days while they did test after test after test, and they didn't know what the matter was. And I said, well, look, worst case, what could this be? And they said it might be an aneurysm. Worst case, it's unlikely. Probably it's going to be something not as bad as this, but you might not get out of here alive. That was horrendous. And that was the most worried I've ever been. I'm facing a point which I had no idea what was going on and no idea what was going to happen from there.
Wow. We ask guests to kind of think of, we kind of say a lot metaphorical life or death moments. But I think that you're the first guest that has literally shared a life or death moment in that opening story.
Yeah.
You must have been pretty scared.
Yeah. Alan, can you share at the moment, because there's times that you read articles and hear interviews of people that are going through these life or death moments and their life is flashing before their eyes, whether it's a spiritual thing or whether it's a regret or what about loved ones. What was running through your mind as you were calling emergency services and obviously in despair?
Great question.
Panic, real panic. I mean, I've only felt that level of panic once or twice in my life. I think the one before then was probably 30 years earlier when I lost my then 18-month-old son in the Science Museum in London. And he was a little chap who used to rush all over the place. And I was holding his hand. I let go for a minute and then he was gone. And it took 20 minutes to find him. That was that level of panic that I haven't experienced since then. So really, it was pure panic, just about managing to dial 999 with my left finger and then able to speak, luckily. It didn't affect my voice, and waiting for the 999, for the ambulance to turn up. So that was what was happening. No thinking, nothing clear at all. Pure panic.
Wow. What did they finally find as the diagnosis of what that was?
It was only a stroke.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you were sitting in, when you were sitting in the hospital for those 10 days, were you thinking about, if I get through this and I have full functionality? And I guess that's a quick question. You have full functionality back right now?
Not really. No, right side is still weak. So
Okay.
as I walk, if you saw me walking, Daniel, you'd see me limping. And if I go on longer walks, I take sticks with me. But considering the
Okay.
prognosis, as I left hospital 6 weeks later, after they diagnosed it and treated me, was that I may never walk again. And I left hospital in a wheelchair. I'm delighted to be walking again and mostly functional. So relatively, this is a good outcome.
It's an incredible outcome, and you persevered. So, I mean, that's a nod to you. I don't know if congratulations is the appropriate word, but it's perseverance and you ensuring that you took the responsibility to do the work and your mindset to get you to a point that you can move around. So congratulations to that. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
When you were sitting in the hospital for those 10 days and obviously unsure of what the future was going to hold, did you start to think about, if I get out of this, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to make changes, or I'm going to make an impact, or what was going through your head at the time?
Yeah, I mean, what we see in movies is what I expected to happen to me. In other words, your life kind of flashes before your eyes, and there you go. I would imagine that I'd gone over regrets of mistakes I'd made. I wish I hadn't done this. But actually, what I noticed was what was going through my head during that period, particularly when we were waiting to hear what the hell was going on with me, was regret of the things I wish I'd done and didn't have the bravery at that time to do. So the promise I made to myself, it was life-changing, Daniel, because the promise I made to myself, if I get out of here alive and got some function, at least if I'm walking or not walking, if I'm come out of here, is I want to start doing the things that I was afraid of and get on with it. And don't waste another moment. Don't wait another day, another month, another year. Get on with it today. And that's what's changed my life.
And how long ago was this incident, Alan?
June 2016. I remember it well because it was the freaking Brexit result while I was in hospital. So that's why. Yeah, that's when.
And there's you thinking that having a stroke was bad, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Double whammy.
Yeah. What a time to mark like a life-changing event, to have another life-changing event, right? So,
yeah.
So what's the
Alan,
first? So hang on a second, Daniel. So what's the first thing you did then to fulfill your promise to yourself?
Start a website.
Go on.
That was to me. You see, being the ancient age I am, and the generation I am, and thinking I don't need one of those websites, and I no longer have offices or factories and bricks and mortar. And what's all this bloody internet stuff? You know, it's sort of useful for email, and there's a bit of LinkedIn. I ignored all that, and I was a bit arrogant with it, to be honest, Peter, of thinking I'm above all that stuff. I don't need it. And I get loads of work for my business coaching practice through referral. Why do I need it? And then I realized in hospital, it was actually, it was all rubbish, those beliefs. I thought, no, it's because I'm frightened to put my head above the parapet as Alan Wick. The imposter syndrome voice. And therefore, what I realized in hospital, to Daniel's question, is that fear is a doorway, that whatever I'm frightened of is a good thing to go towards rather than something to avoid. And so that's what I did. I started my first website, just a single page with tiny font, hardly any images of me. I was so nervous of doing it, like the world would stop turning if I start putting a website together. And that's what I did first thing. And it felt at the time ridiculously scary. Looking back, it sounds crazy now, no. but that's how it felt at the time.
I think that's already a great piece of advice for our listener, right? Is doing something is going to be scary, but just get on with it. Do it. Do you only have regrets now looking back at that of I should have done it sooner? It shouldn't have been this life-changing moment that I should have just gotten out of my skin and been uncomfortable and created that website, or did you feel that it was the perfect time?
The latter. Look, of course, we all have down moments, depression, anger, imposter syndrome voices. So there might be moods where I go, I wish I'd done that. I should have this, should have that. But to me, should is a sign. Should is other people's judgment. And it's piercing our ego. It's not really to do with our real self. If we're going to talking today about bits about spirituality and however we define that, and who is our true self, then my answer to you is it came when the time was right for me and my life.
Mm. In your earlier answer, Alan, you alluded to the fact that you have a business career apart from the coaching and work that you do with entrepreneurs now. Just for the sake of the listener, what receipts do you have from a business entrepreneurial building perspective?
Sure. Well, my wife and I have got 3 businesses between us. The coaching practice, there's a property business with some tenants and so on. And then my wife is a yoga teacher. So we have those 3. But I think what you might be referring to, Peter, is what I did prior to becoming a business coach.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So that those days have gone. That was empire building. That was building businesses, trying to conquer the world in a variety of different areas. And of course, I can talk about that till the cows come home. It's up to you how much detail you'd like me to go into.
I guess it's the contrast. I guess in what you're saying there, I hear a contrast between being built by love and being built the way that you were doing it before. So the fact that you have experienced building businesses in both paradigms could be really valuable and insightful for our listener.
Yeah, I was very ego-driven, very go out and conquer, very aggressive, assertive in business practices. And what I was trying to do was to make as much money as possible and to be as successful as possible. And that was driven really, I would say today, looking back, ego-driven, as opposed to what would make me happy inside and really being aware of my internal feelings and getting rid of, or at least minimizing, the judgment of the world, comparisons with the world, what my parents or their generation or cousins or family members, and comparisons with others. And therefore, today I can say comparison is odious. And a lot of the theme of our discussion today, I think, is very much about entrepreneurs getting really clear and being brave enough to really recognize what makes them happy for their life. And that was another learning from the stroke episode, that life is short. We can get run over any moment. So be happy now, whatever happiness means to you, to that individual, whether it's being a monk in a cave somewhere, or whether it's having $1 billion business, whatever it is that makes them genuinely happy. So my first 25 years was growing up in a business orientated family, and then starting a business very young, age 21. And then from that moment onwards, growing those businesses, and then nationally and internationally, living and working in America, Japan, around the world. At one time, I had working with 100 people in 3 factories and a head office, in a high quality, high margin, high tech professional audio, electronics and acoustics world, which I loved. And I loved dBs and kilohertz.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but continue to be held back by marketing that fails to bring in new customers? It's time to stop settling for lackluster results, wasting your time and money, and focus on a proven formula for business growth. At Built by Love, we're more than a marketing agency. We're your growth partner. As a multiple-time award-winning agency, we specialize in creating marketing strategies that aren't just effective, they're transformative. Here's what we do. 1. Grow your revenue. Our proven systems drive meaningful, measurable results. 2. Elevate your brand. Our strategies will help you stand out and connect with your audience on a deeper level. 3. We save you time and money. Our award-winning team will handle your advertising and marketing with precision and expertise so you can focus on what you do best. Don't just take our word for it. Experience the difference for yourself. Book your free consultation today at builtbylove.com.
And all that, and having been a drummer before then. So the actual business itself was very enjoyable, but my drive was very ego-driven, as opposed to what would I be happy today with.
And what happened? Why, if you were enjoying the business side of it so much, why did you stop? What changed, and what happened as a result?
It's a great question. I sold a group of businesses, went off and started another business, and then was invited to come back and buy one of the businesses I'd sold 8 years earlier. And again, ego-driven. I got really, in a way, I suppose, what's the word? It's like being attracted. It's not quite seduced, I think is the word. I allowed myself to be seduced to go back and buy this company back out of an international conglomerate that had bought the business and had asset stripped it. And the current employees at that time thought, I wonder whether we can get Alan back to come and buy the business back out from the international conglomerate. And I jumped at the chance. I'd missed my baby and I did no due diligence, Peter. I rushed into it. I put a load of my own money in, raised a lot more. And then I discovered that the people that were currently involved in the business were honest. They just wanted out. They're unhappy being in that kind of situation. And they were kidding themselves as to the state of the business. And in kidding themselves, and I trusted them and trust them till this day, as I say, nice people, I then got fooled and found myself in a situation where it became a turnaround with a business that was losing money very quickly and went downhill. It's like I got into a lift expecting it to stay at the same level, and instead I stepped in and the lift started going down fast. So I took 4 years to do a turnaround from a business that was making $1 million profit and was suddenly losing, and then going 3/4 half to 250K and then losing money. I did a turnaround, but it absolutely strung me out, wrecked me health-wise, because I was doing 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to do a turnaround. So I got the company back on an even keel. We sold it again. I didn't lose money, but it felt like a failure. And that was another turning point, because I realized I can't do this anymore. I want to be in business for different reasons. And that's when I went solo and decided I'll see where that takes me.
Alan, you have an incredible story and journey. And when I was doing the research and I was reading about the company and that you bought and then you sold and then you bought again, what intrigued me was one of the things where I kind of, if you'll allow me, because you referenced it of being a drummer, is before that and kind of how you came into that audio company was you toured. You were touring with like major internationally famous rock bands. Can you just talk about that for a moment? And then if there was anything that you learned that you pulled from those experiences that you then went into the endeavor of buying the audio company. And, I know we just talked a little bit about that.
Sure. I really tried hard to be a rock star. I took it seriously. I was in a band. We were semi-pro. We had a manager and an agent. We had a really good following around London. We did some great gigs, and we loved it. And in the daytime, we were all working day jobs in order to keep ourselves going in the band, four of us in the band. And at rehearsal studio, where I was rehearsing, I got friendly with the owner. And we got chatting and we were talking about what happens there. It was a really good rehearsal studio. And there'd been some amazing bands rehearsing there in the years before turned up with my little band. That Free, Jimi Hendrix, and the Drifters, and loads of really big bands
Wow.
used to rehearse there.
Wow.
But what the owner was telling me, Alan, I can't make any money out of this. And he wasn't kidding. He was making more money out of the pinball machine than actually renting out the rehearsal studio. So I asked him some questions and got chatting, and I'd had this business background, and I noticed that the bands were coming in, bringing their equipment, the backline equipment, bass and guitar and drums type stuff, from other rental companies. I said, I know what, why don't we ask our parents if we can borrow a little bit of money, buy a little bit of backline equipment, and then start renting it to the bands that come and rehearse? He said, great idea. So we started doing that, and it was a success. And that then became organically into a company renting equipment. And then at that point, major decision point in my life, I was 21, I think, in the mid 70s, first business. And one of the bands rehearsing there said, Alan, we want you to come out with us on the road because we know you're a good mixing engineer. And that would mean, though, that I'd have to stop with the band. So a big why came up, a fork in the road. Do I carry on with the drumming, trying to be a pop rock star, or do I go the business direction and head one over the heart? So I stopped the band, I left, and then I went off on tour. And then over the next 4 or 5 years, that organically developed into the company you've just described, where I toured around the world with, quite a few top bands, mixing their sound, renting them our PA equipment, and that became a successful business.
Are there any crazy stories from touring for 4 to 5 years that you can share, or at least one story or a tidbit of one?
Well, yes, where to start? I think that the story I think I'd like to share is where it was a lesson along, and it's something that stood me in good stead ever since. Because I think it's best if I don't mention the band. They're a household name and everyone is still alive. So I'm just going to say a well-known band where there was one particular member who was the bass player. And every night on stage, he would have some kind of meltdown and he would get angry. He would always take it out on what's called the monitor engineer. And the monitor engineer is off to the side of the stage and within, this is important, touching distance of the band. And they've got a big mixing console in front of them, and their job is to feed the sound that the band is hearing. Whereas my job as the out front engineer is to look after the audience. And every bloody night, the bass player would get out of his mind on various substances, claim he couldn't hear the monitors or couldn't hear the vocals or whatever, and get really angry with the monitor engineer, who was my employee. So I felt a duty of care towards him. And on occasion, not always, this bass player would swing his bass at the monitor engineer. Yeah. And the monitor engineer would have to duck. And look, we had meetings with the management. We had meetings with the band. I promise I'll never do it again, said the bass player. I'm really sorry. And then inevitably he'd get out of his brain, get angry. So I thought, I'm going to try something. And this has stood me in really good stead. I'm going to try humor. So we were touring in America, doing these big venues. And I went out one day And a monitor engineer was a big guy, 6'6". I mean, under any other circumstances, the bass player would have been frightened of him. But being such a star, so I bought him, the monitor engineer, an American football gear, the entire outfit, right, of the Los Angeles Raiders, because that was who I supported, and including the helmet, everything, the shoulders, everything. And I said to the monitor engineer, "Don't wear it during sound check, but when it comes to the gig, just make sure you duck a bit or you stand a bit out of the way when they come on stage, because usually they look over." And then the gig went ahead, and as usual, he lost his, and he goes to do this. He looks over, he starts laughing his head off, and I can see him. I can see all this played out on stage. He absolutely lost his head in humor, laughing. It never happened again.
Wow. That's incredible.
What a great story.
So when there are tough moments with clients in their businesses, I can't say I always do this when I'm involved or triggered myself, because it's very hard to be humorous, but I bring humor to try to dispel tension. And that's worked really well ever since.
Great advice.
You've obviously scaled many different companies, and you coach and mentor entrepreneurs to help them scale. Do you notice a trend with businesses that make mistakes scaling or fail to grow? Or are there any trends you're noticing across the entrepreneurs, not only from your own journey, but the ones that you've coached, where they struggle with certain things? And how could they get out of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say the two toughest parts of an entrepreneur's journey are leading and managing people, and truly understanding finances. Which, apart from if you're going into becoming an accountant, is not the reason why all these entrepreneurs go into business. They do go into it because there's something they love, they're really passionate about, and of course want to make money and want to be recognized and make a dent of some kind. And so money and P&Ls, cash flows, balance sheets, boring as hell though they are, tend to get avoided. And if they're ignored, and entrepreneurs going for revenues, which is vanity, it's the old one, revenues vanity, profit sanity, cash is king. That's as true today as it's ever been, I think, Daniel. And also not underestimating their skills at leading and managing people and building a team. And again, I'd say there's a real link with rock and roll, because in a band, the band is just what you see on stage. Behind the band could be dozens or hundreds of people who are a team, and that team has to all operate together in a way that gives a great performance. So those are the two areas I think that entrepreneurs tend to underestimate when they're trying to scale. So what I try to show them and teach them is to have an approach that is very mindful of sustainability, of having a solid basis, like a solid foundation for their business, and try to get a balance between entrepreneurship and sustainability. And it's not, there's no rule. I'd say with every entrepreneur it's different, but to bring that mindfulness to them.
I know in my own 28-year journey of having a number of businesses, I've been in seven figures, and I've been in six figures, ups and downs and things like that. And I remember for my marketing agency, it was, 7 years ago or something. And we hit seven figures, and I was looking at the financials when the tax time came, and I was personally making more money when I was making less revenue, because exactly what you had just referenced is I had no idea about cash flow and expenses. I just was hiring people. We got more business, we hired more people. And then at the end, some of my staff was actually making more money than me.
You're an entrepreneur and you're busy, but we know that every business owner needs a podcast without the hassle of learning about production. Well, we figured it out for you. Activate Your Podcast is a service that offers everything you need to make a podcast that creates meaningful relationships with your clients at scale. The experts at AYP will work directly with you to produce 5 pillar episodes from a 2-hour conversation that captures the trust and love you are bringing to your ideal client. And the assets are all yours to create your own amazing marketing campaign. For the benefits of a podcast without the hard work, head to activateyourpodcast.com and let's create something great together. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah. What do you think is more damaging? Do you think it's not having a control of your finances, or I'm throwing you a curveball here, or making the wrong hire?
Or making the wrong what, sorry?
The wrong hire, hiring the wrong person.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm sorry, I'm going to throw it back at you because it's going to depend on the exact circumstances. So, for example, a wrong hire of somebody junior is relatively not damaging, but the wrong hire of somebody senior can be very damaging to the business. And by wrong, let's define what we mean by that, because wrong can be skills, or it could be, and this is the kicker to me, is values, a values mismatch. And that's where I notice things go spectacularly wrong when hires are made without checking if the values match those of the business we're trying to build. And that can be damaging because it's not just that one individual, it's their influence on the others in the team, particularly SMEs. So for that, to avoid that mistake, I teach methods to minimize. You can never eliminate it, but to minimize wrong hires and to increase the chances of a good fit values-wise, culturally, and then the skills can always be taught if necessary. And then on the financial side, yeah, again, it's going to depend on the business model, because you can make a bad decision on pricing or a particular deal, and it may have a small effect on the business. On the other hand, there may be some joint venture that a business tries to go into, or a big decision like opening an office in another country. And if that goes wrong, it could be disastrous. So it's going to depend a lot on the particular circumstances, I think.
Alan, your business is called Love Business. Why did you use the L word in naming your company?
Well,
because I mean, we would love to see it more widely embraced, but it's not the most common word when it comes to business, is it?
So the test I gave myself on what I thought could be my deathbed, sorry, I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but that time in hospital, is I want to see how far I can take brand Alan Wick. That really was a test, a challenge for myself. So I really have tried and done my best since then to bring forward the brand Alan Wick with a particular look and feel. And it was only when I took a dose of my own medicine, Peter, doctor, heal thyself. And I did a proper positioning exercise for brand Alan Wick, which I did relatively recently, 2019, 2020. And I went through a process that I do with my own clients, which is a very academic, scientific process based on the work of Trout and Rees, who wrote the book Positioning in the 1980s. And I submitted myself really to have a coach, paid a coach to coach me through it. And we went through a process where you don't know in advance what your one word is going to be, that you want your one word for that brand to stand for. You haven't got a clue. So it's totally creative, no attachments. And since Trout and Rees's work, Seth Godin, who is my guru when it comes to anything marketing, he's added to that work by doing another set of processes which we used as well. And cut a long story short, Peter, we honed the work. It involves as well, I should mention, that it involves not just taking the view of me outwards, what I believe my brand perception is. You have to do this properly, you have to do outside research with the marketplace by hiring somebody objective through a lens of positioning to find out what the market thinks of brand Peter Daly-Dickson right now, or Daniel Bussius, or Alan Wick, or whatever it happens to be. And once we've got that info, we now know where we are, how the brand is perceived today. And then we go through this process I've been describing, and I got to the word love. I didn't expect it. Now, it's relevant. My coach, Lucy, is a female. And I said, no way am I doing love. Forget it. I've got a suit and a tie, and I've got short hair at that time. And I do work in boardrooms in the City of London with pinstripes and all that stuff. I was shooting. I was doing a lot of shooting at that time. And she said to me, Alan, grow a set. Now, good coaching. So that then said, that is the real me. It's how I'm perceived. I bring care, I bring warmth, I bring all that to my clients. I love what I do. I feel incredibly privileged. And so that's my one word. So that's when we added the strapline, love business. And then I talk openly about love. And these days, just to make it a little more practical, I use it as a one word as a short way of promulgating the quadruple bottom line of planet, purpose, people, and profit, which is a bit of a mouthful. So my one word is love, but I'm preaching the quadruple bottom line, which talks to sustainability and solidity and being good to the planet and people and all of that as well. And now, guess what? I now have manifested that since that positioning work, and now almost all of my clients are B Corp, or if they're not B Corp, they believe in business being a force for good. So it's come full circle in a really positive way.
I absolutely love that, what you're talking about, Alan. I remember when I wrote my book, Marketing Built by Love, the final chapter where it summarizes, how love is really the cornerstone of marketing, and how as a company, a brand, you should create experiences that your customers love. They actually have an emotional attachment to your brand. Whatever you're producing, whether it's a service or a product, should be the highest quality ingredients, the best possible experience. It should be built to last. And by doing that, you're not going to be racing to the bottom, competing on pricing, right? Because these people are going to be loyal to you. And even if your brand has some warts, they're going to overlook that because they have an emotional attachment. And I argued that it's not politics and politicians that are going to make the world a better place and save the environment and get fair wages to the staff and their employees and so forth. It's entrepreneurs and business owners that if they embrace love and do the right thing, they're going to have employees that love working there. They're going to want to do right. The products and services that they produce and offer, their customers are going to love and be loyal to, and that's going to elevate everything. And I remember my publisher, and I love my publisher to death. They've been wonderful to me. But they said, this last chapter is a little bit kind of out there. And I really feel like the chapter before just closes up the book and your foundational marketing. We could probably leave this last chapter out. And I said, absolutely not.
That's the whole point.
That's the entire message of the book. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but I love that you're saying that, because when I was going through the writing process 3-4 years ago, I thought I had the imposter syndrome of who the heck am I? And what am I writing out here is it insane? Like, will people actually read it and be like, this guy's off his tree? And I love the fact that you're well more established than me, much more seasoned in your experiences of business, and you're over there in the United Kingdom, and we share the same values, and you're enacting those with the businesses that you're working with. So I selfishly thank you, right? Because I was wondering if what I was on a mission for over here in the United States was going to gain any traction. So thank you.
It's a pleasure, but I would argue that there's even more need for this approach with the current political situation of what's going on. So I see it all the more reason. And I think what we're all talking about here is differentiation and being brave enough to have that point of differentiation. And I don't know if I can use this analogy with the States, if this works, but what I call a Marmite approach. It's either we love it or we hate it. We want those extreme reactions. The more we are safe and in the middle, forget it. Forget it. We can't please. It's trying to please people. No. I reckon this is what I stand for, or this is what my brand stands for. Either come into my shop, you're welcome. We'd love to have you here with us. And if not, no problem. It's not for you.
Where does love and how does love manifest in your property business?
Yeah, great question. In the brilliant work my wife does, Ruth, in the way she has designed and decorated the buildings where the tenants are. They're called HMOs. Again, I don't know if you have them in the States, but houses of multiple occupation, and they're both within 15 minutes walk of Reading Station. So there's 5 tenants in one and 6 in the other, and the quality of the furnishings, the internet, the Wi-Fi, the way we react if there's a problem, all of that is bringing love. And there are places we would stay if we needed to overnight. That's how we do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're eating your own dog food, so to speak, right? Like,
Yes.
I love that statement as we would stay there, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
If you'll allow me for a moment, since we're speaking about love and we're speaking about entrepreneurs, and you're obviously your successful coaching business, I call it an impossible balance, and you spoke to it, Alan, earlier in our podcast today, where you're driving towards the growth of business, whether it's ego, whether it's revenue, for whatever reason. We all naturally want to, conquer the world and grow whatever, venture we have. But then what happens is usually the relationships, the meaningful relationships in our life, wither away because they're not getting the attention and the love that they need, and usually our personal health. And I know in my own journey, I was by no means an alcoholic, but I was stressed out because I was working 7 days a week, working till 10 o'clock at night. And so by that point in time, 10 o'clock at night rolls around. I'm so wired up that I'm going to have a glass of wine. Well, now I'm starting to take the edge off. I might as well have a second glass of wine. And I wasn't getting crazy and I wasn't doing like irresponsible things. But having 2 glasses of wine before you then go to bed, because now it's like midnight, well, you're not getting a great sleep. You're a little bit grumpy, and it impacts your health. It impacts everything. So how do you coach and mentor the entrepreneurs you're working with to help them try to navigate that journey of you have to tend to this? If you're not successful in your personal life, it's gonna translate over to business.
My approach is what makes you happy, that life is short, and be happy now, not I will be happy when. So turn it round. So, we're getting to a little bit of coachy language, but instead of do, be, have, be, do, that language of have, be, do, when I have this, then I will be happy. It's being happy now, today, And then what does that mean to you? Let's go in there. Let's go there and take time. Now, by definition, I'm only meeting people who've reached out for help.
Hey there, entrepreneurs and business owners. Are you feeling stuck with marketing strategies that just aren't delivering? Struggling to attract the right customers or boost your sales? Imagine turning those challenges into triumphs with a proven roadmap tailored just for you. Introducing Marketing Built by Love, the game-changing book by award-winning expert Daniel Bussius. Marketing Built by Love is designed to tackle your biggest business pains head-on, whether you're battling low visibility, weak customer loyalty, or stagnant growth. This book provides actionable solutions that drive real results. Here's how it can transform your business. Boost your revenue. Implement strategies that convert leads into loyal customers. Strengthen customer relationships. Create meaningful connections that keep your clients coming back. Streamline your marketing efforts. Save time and money with effective, easy-to-follow systems. Don't let marketing woes hold you back any longer. Take control and watch your business thrive. Grab your copy of Marketing Built by Love today in stores at Barnes & Noble, or order online at Amazon or wherever you buy quality books. Transform your marketing. Solve your business problems. Achieve the success you deserve with Marketing Built by Love. Available now.
Right.
So there's already some awareness that they need some external help or support of some kind. So the people who are already going down the road you've described and not aware are unlikely also to be aware they need some help or aware they may need to make an adjustment. So therefore, then is the question, how would we get to those people? I don't try to convert people to, well, you're wrong. You need to see it this way or that way. So I'm presented with a question from an entrepreneur who might be, Alan, I'm absolutely burned out here. I'm doing this amount of alcohol, in some cases, this number of drugs. I'm doing 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've gone through a year where we've done this raise of these millions and those millions and more millions, but I don't have a life. What should I do? So from that question, that's where we can work. And we begin by looking at, and it's right on the edge, Daniel. I'm not a therapist, but I go right up to that line of therapy and go underneath. Well, what's driving you? What makes you happy? Tell me more about your life, what you'd like to be happy. And in one case, I can remember a client who asked me to help them build their business. They had a dream in their mind. They want to get it to 5 million turnover, 50 people, then they'd be happy. And I helped them do that. They hated it. And to your point, Daniel, they were more stressed and making less money than when they had 6, 8 people. So, Alan, thank you. Now I want you to help me and bring it. So over 2 or 3 years, but I don't want to get rid of people overnight. I'm not a certain American I'm thinking of that just sacks people overnight. You want to do it gradually. And then over the next couple of years, I helped him gradually bring the thing back down to 6, 8 people, and he was happy. So it's the conversation that then leads to those choices that entrepreneur is making that's for them, their life to be happy, not my judgment.
It's coming back to that S word, isn't it? That should word. It's like the first iteration was, I think that I should have a business like that a business like that is a successful business, whatever the hell successful means. But it's when you get rid of the shoulds that you can then start to be real with yourself. Ultimately, I think that's the starting point, isn't it?
Yes, that's it.
My takeaway from what you just said, Alan, is the journey is the destination.
Yes.
Be happy now.
Yes.
Find your happiness now. And it's the destination of happiness of like, I will, when I get to, 50 employees, I will this. Find your happiness now. You've already reached your destination. Anything else, if you happen to get to the 50 employees or whatever, that's inconsequential, because there's no guarantee that tomorrow you've been gifted life again.
That's it. Yeah.
Are there any kind of leadership traits that you're noticing in entrepreneurs that drive success? And then is there any difference in personality or character or values? Is anything at all from working with entrepreneurs in Europe versus the United States? Because culturally there are differences there. So I guess that's a two-pronged question. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Persistence to the first half of your question. Yeah. Never give up.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the second part of your question, a big difference. I lived and worked in New York for many years, and I'd already toured around America many times and got to know many different parts of it. And so I was working there. And I would say the UK is more risk averse, and whereas America and Silicon Valley and New York and so on is more has a looser attitude toward risk, a bit more fail quickly, get up again, fail again, get up. There was a famous quote, and I can't remember whether it was BlackRock or one of the big VCs in the States, who said, actually, we prefer not to invest in first timers. We want to see some failures along the way. And then we know that, and they're still going and having another go. Whereas I'd say the UK tends to be more conservative. There is a VC investment landscape here, and it is entrepreneurial, but relatively, I would say, more conservative and a little bit more attention to solidity. Whereas I'd say, and this is all subtle, I'm not saying these are dramatic differences, whereas America's are more go for it, can do, get there. Okay, fall over, fail, get up again.
Would you say there's any, you mentioned there's a strong commonality of your clients. A lot of them are B Corps, business as a force for good. Is there any other commonalities you see in your clients, either in industry or size or anything like that?
No, it varies enormously, which is part of the reason I love it so much. No, I don't think so, other than business as a force for good. No. Maybe it's because it's an area of interest for me. I don't know how conscious this is, but I would say that the majority of my clients, whatever they're doing, whether it's manufacturing or services or any sector, tend to be more towards premium end of the market than mid or low. But that's coincidental. That's not something I go out with, consciously.
Yeah. But then the reason I asked the question, I guess, is to help the listener potentially identify in themselves whether it's worth their while and your time for them to get in touch with you. How would the listener know whether they're the kind of business that you work with and can help?
That's a good question. Like, is there a revenue marker or size or a specific industry?
I have a general guide that it tends to be businesses between 5 and 25 mil, 50 to 50 people, but that's traditional businesses, because a SaaS business, you can have 6 people and be doing hundreds of millions of pounds turnover. So that's only a guideline. I think the best way to tell, because as the years have gone by, and I've got another degree of bravery, another degree of I'm going to show them that I've got on my website now quite a bit of what I call qualification pages, where is this what you believe? Yes, this list, good. If it's that list, we can't work together. I mean, I've really
shared values again,
and I've also shared
values again.
Shared values, exactly.
Shared values again.
Yes, and shared beliefs. So that tends to be the binding factor rather than this number of turnover or number of people. For example, I'm working with several startups that are well funded. They're burning a lot of money every month, SaaS businesses, but they can afford my fees, and as well as bigger companies that are mid of SME, who are traditional services or manufacturing. So it's more to do with shared values and beliefs than the numbers, I'd say.
Yeah.
Alan, is it a myth that B Corps and mission-driven businesses that want to do good are less profitable than businesses that are not B Corps, businesses that are driving towards competitive and profitability? Is there a myth there? Because I've heard both.
No, it's I totally disagree. In fact, there's a book that I would guide you and the listeners to that proves it, called Firms of Endearment. You think about the name, that's a clue. Firms of Endearment. And there are three top consultants and professors, Harvard level, who've worked with the big businesses, and they wanted to set out to measure exactly what you're asking about. And they did 10 years of studying the S&P Standard & Poor's Index, 500 Index. They measured purpose-led businesses against the standard ones that aren't. They freaking outperformed the S&P average by 15 times. This is not subtle.
Oh my fucking God.
That's incredible.
So why don't more businesses know this shit? How do we get this message out there?
Because if it's a public company that needs the next quarter's share price, and that's what drives the hiring and firing of CEOs and all the other short-term capitalism, which I'm happy to get into, versus why we're here on the planet and spirituality. Let's go there. That's why, because they need the next quarter's share price.
Right.
And they care.
So what do we do about that? Let's go there. Come on, let's dig in. Let's...
The companies that have a longer term view are more towards the Japanese view of long term and more towards long term sustainability. I'll give you a really good example. This is not difficult. Have you heard of a company called Patagonia? Anybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%.
They are the epitome of firms of endearment. They're one of the poster childs of the companies they measured.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I love that. Do you think
are we in danger possibly of kind of just skirting away from from an area there was a possibility to dig into? Though you talked about, the short-termism, capitalism. Is there anything more you want to say on that?
Yeah. The serious point is that if there is a mindful approach to taking equal or at least a balanced view towards profit, planet, purpose, and people, what was the triple bottom line is now the quadruple bottom line. John Ettinger was the inventor of that. There's loads to read about that on the internet and books he's written and so on. That was the triple bottom line without purpose. That he came up with that phrase in the 80s. And he is one of the leaders in the area we're talking about sustainability and so on. And then when you add purpose into the mix, then companies, SMEs, that are conscious of those choices and that they can affect all four, then those businesses may not grow as quickly. They may be a little bit more organic. They may not be seizing every opportunity to grow tomorrow, but in the long run, no comparison. Much more profitable for longer. No comparison.
So how do we overcome this myopic short-term view of business success? Is it possible?
Yeah, I would read. The quickest way to do it, in my opinion, is to read Firms of Endearment, because in that single book is scientific, couldn't be more rigorous research into the obstacles, the reasons why we may not believe it, we may not want to go there, and then once people read that book, in my experience, they go, okay, got it. This will be positive for the bottom line. This isn't going all woo woo.
Yeah. Sounds like a good recommendation for the show notes, Daniel.
Yeah. I've already put a marker that I'm going to order that book today. So, you work with all kinds of different business owners. You mentioned SaaS companies. You mentioned manufacturers and everything in between. And so we've talked about, having a purpose and making sure. And I just want to drive home on the one thing. So these business owners need to understand that, hey, if we do it right, we build with love, we make sure we've got a mission. And you mentioned the 3 Ps, right? Was it the 3 Ps? Yeah.
4 Ps.
Well, it was 3 and now 4 with purpose added.
Okay. Purpose, planet. Okay. Profits. Yeah. Okay. All right. Do you think that's going to be the key to long-term success? You may forego a little bit of short-term success, but that's the key to long-term success?
Well, that's a great question, because I'd like to kind of play devil's advocate with our conversation, because Amazon is one of the most profitable businesses, largest and most profitable business on the planet, and the culture there is anything but what we've been talking about. It's dog eat dog. But from a purely money point of view, it's created a billionaire, one of the richest people in the world. And there are lots of very well paid people, thousands of them worldwide, and they're all competing with each other within the business to make more money. And there's Amazon Web Services, which of course supports thousands of businesses around the world. And yet I would not describe their approach to business and life as anything to do with purpose or planet or people. It's profit, 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 profit. So the point I'm making is it's about conscious choices. That's all. And I'm not judging it. I'm saying Amazon isn't for me. I'm not for them. I would never coach them. They would never want me, because I'd be too soft and too much for the other 3 Ps. And they'd want people who can help them to show me how to make another $1 tomorrow. That's all I'm interested in. So it's about choices, I think, Daniel. And then any of the listeners who are interested in building a business and a life that is more balanced and more sustainable, that's something I advocate and can help with. And if not, no problem.
I've argued in my book, and I believe it, and I coach my clients about this, and I want to see what you have to say about it. So I'm kind of being vulnerable here. One of the things I say is that human beings build loyalty when there's an equal exchange of value, or even if the consumer, so to speak, right, the customer feels like they're even getting more value out of the relationship than what they're putting in. And obviously the customer's value is first time and attention before they spend $1 with you. And then secondly, obviously their money, and that money requires time. They have to work for that money. And so they're basically, everything comes down to time and value. And so what I say to brands, and Alan, it'll be interesting to see your take on this, is that you have to have a great relationship with your customer and your prospects. You have to deliver real value, not just sell all the time. Not only in your product or service that they're going to consume, but before they consume anything, you have to deliver that real value. And if you have a mission that's behind it, then they're going to build that rapport. And for that, they're going to be loyal to you, and they will be willing to spend more money on your brand rather than go to the cheapest possible solution because of that relationship. And it's all about the relationship. Do you believe that, or do you believe there's something else?
Yeah, I totally believe it. And what's coming up for me is the word is authenticity,
Yeah.
and showing it every day. So, for example, it would be awful if I've got my strapline as love business and a client, existing paying client, sends me an email and I ignore it, or I'm slow to reply. That to me is not delivering what is on the front of the building, love and care and so on. So authenticity. Another element I think you're referring to, Daniel, is empathy, is
Yeah.
again, which is a big Seth Godin learning about really understanding the needs of our customers and our clients, and ideally being a step ahead of them, ideally, so that they're feeling looked after and taken care of. And that comes full circle back to that premium point I was making earlier, where it's very hard for low cost businesses like Primark in the UK, well, they're wider than that, or Ryanair, where it's transactional. It has to be high volume, and will lose many employees and customers along the way. It doesn't matter. And interestingly, with Southwest Airlines recently, which has had until recently a really good reputation for being different, and then suddenly with the new CEO, and they've dropped a load of the differentiation, they're almost becoming like others. So I think it's about maintaining that brand and that brand positioning that I'm hoping companies have chosen in a conscious way, and we want to stand for this mission, this purpose, and then having to deliver it every day, day in, day out, and all our staff and team members, employees, all buy into it, and they all behave like that. So there's that cultural element. And then I think we get that virtuous circle of loyalty that you're referring to.
I love
What's the
that.
legacy that you want to leave behind, whether in business or personal or both?
Yeah, in personal, it would be that, he was a good guy and he tried to do his best in the world. And I'd hope that my son, who's now 33, married, and my stepchildren, I have 4 stepchildren, would remember me as somebody who, did their best and try to do good in the world. I think from a personal point of view, legacy from a business point of view, I've started thinking about that in the last couple of years, and I thought, well, look, when I die, I can't turn up to get paid unless they've invented some unbelievable AI by then, which maybe they will. But assuming they haven't, and that people will be able to tell the difference, I thought what I'll start to do is to create and again, I like to give myself a challenge every year. Something I'm frightened of is an indication this is worth it. Like fear is a doorway. So I've always been a bit scared of recording to video and doing recordings of courses and a training course. I've never done it before. I've no idea what's involved. It's a big risk financially and time wise. So for the last year, I've been developing a new on-demand course that'll come out in the spring called The Business of Finance. And that will be hopefully good enough that it'll last beyond my death, and it'll be a legacy that people can still sign up to and still buy and still benefit from understanding P&L's, balance sheets and cash flows, but from an entrepreneurial point of view rather than an accountancy point of view. And I'd love that to be a legacy that people take for years to come after I die.
Lovely. Well, this episode will go live after that launch. So make sure you let us know what the URL is, and we can make sure that's in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Yeah, since we're speaking of that, for our listener who's inspired by you and wants to see if they can work with you or follow you or check out your course, where can they find you?
My website is alanwick.com, alanwick.com, and there will be a landing page in a couple of months for the course, but not ready yet.
Perfect. All right. Any advice? Any final words? If someone's listening and they feel overwhelmed or stuck, is there any words of advice you have?
It's absolutely crucial to have outside support. I was lucky that from the time I was born, my father, who was an amazing businessman, and he lived life and business as a force for good in every aspect of his life. And he was my mentor until he died very young, when I was only 26 years old. And he helped me. Some of the stories I've told you about the choices I made with the business and the rehearsal studio and the rental company were thanks to his advice. And after he died, I took a lot of time going out to find a replacement, really, a new mentor. And I was very lucky to meet Mike O'Flynn. Mike O'Flynn had worked his way up from nothing to become VP for Europe, Middle East and Africa for Gillette. And he ran that for many years. And then after Gillette, he went over to Pfizer in Canada and he ran that. And then he went solo. So he had decades of real world business experience. He became my mentor for the rest of his life until he died in his 80s. So I had another 15, 20 years, luckily, working with him. In both cases, I'm saying, whatever the flavor, outside support, somebody objective who you're paying to be there for your running mate, who you can bounce things off, accountability partner, somebody who is not dependent on you, not reliant, who can tell you truths you may not want to hear, but they're for your own good and you respect where they're coming from. Of whatever flavor, whoever you trust, to me, that's crucial.
Great advice. Thank you, Alan.
Amazing. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Built by Love podcast. If you found the conversation inspiring or helpful in any way, then head to builtbylove.com/podcast and make sure you're subscribed to our email list. Please also take a few minutes to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and share this episode with a friend that you think it might help. Each review helps us to spread the message of love to more people. See you next time on the Built by Love podcast.